So before we actually get into today's video, I want to talk to you guys about jerseyfifa.com, because as you can see they have hooked me up with a load of fresh shirts for this year's World Cup. I've got the England home kit, the England away kit, and also a nice little retro shirt. And you can do exactly the same if you head to jerseyfifa.com using the link in the description down below. They also do the same for club football as well, the latest home shirts, away shirts, but also some really nice retro kits. If you are interested, head to the link in the description down below and use code jerseyfifa for a discount when you order. Now into the video. Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today we have our first coverage of the knockout rounds of the World Cup. And of course today we are talking about the Netherlands 3-1 win over the USA, and what we will be talking about was very much a tactical masterclass from Louis van Gaal. He clearly set out a really good plan, and to be fair, his players executed that plan pretty well. So basically let's just get straight into talking about it. Now I'll be honest, this game didn't actually go exactly how I was expecting it to. I think when we talk about the Netherlands and the history of Dutch football, they have a way of playing. The Dutch tend to dominate the ball, that is what they do. Not in this game. So I was expecting them to play in that way, and that is why actually I thought the USA had a really good chance in this game. But Louis van Gaal, like I said, was just very intelligent with the way that he set his team up. And basically he let the USA have the ball and said, come on, you guys have the ball, you progress it onto us, see what you can do from there. So even with the wing-backs, for example, right? Wing-backs in a system like this, we could expect them to see pressing all the way up onto the full-backs. They weren't interested in doing that. They dropped into a back five off the ball. The strikers, they could have quite easily gone man-for-man with the two USA centre-backs. Again, no, they weren't interested. They sat off, something which we will come back onto in a second. But I thought it was really interesting from the Netherlands, because like I said, just in terms of the history of Dutch football, this isn't necessarily what we expect from them. But it just worked so well, because it let the centre-backs have the ball, basically. We know that USA like to push their full-backs forward, like so, doing this. It meant that Ream and Zimmerman had a lot of the ball, and actually for large periods of this game, like so much of this match, it was just the centre-backs basically stuck. The centre-backs standing there with the ball at their feet going, where do we go from here? And the US just didn't seem ready for that plan. And they just didn't have the answers, really. Now, one way that we know that the USA like to attack is with their fullbacks. We know that they kind of bring their wingers inside a little bit, and then the fullbacks really push forward, bomb forward, provide the width for the attack. So there were situations where USA looked to use that. Zimmerman would be able to play the ball into Dest, and then we'd have Dest and Weyer trying to get in a 2 versus 1 situation up against Blind. And down the other side, Robinson and Pulisic up against Dumfries. And if USA had been able to do that more, it could have been really threatening. However, this was where the Netherlands were just very good with their approach, because when the centre-backs had the ball, again the strikers' positioning was really interesting, because not only did they not press, they also didn't often sit in front of the midfield. They kind of took this wide starting position between the centre-backs and the full-backs, and basically going to the centre-backs, can you play through the middle? And the problem was that they couldn't, because we saw Klaassen man-marking Adams, De Jong on Musa, and then De Bruyne on McKennie. And basically the Netherlands let the centre-backs have the ball and said, can you, just the centre-backs, can you break us down? And the answer for so long was no. Now, Ream and Zimmerman had both had good tournaments at the World Cup, but in terms of quality on the ball, they just aren't suited to playing in this way. So, whilst Van Gaal potentially gets a little bit of criticism at some point in this tournament for not necessarily playing in the traditional Dutch way, it was absolutely perfect for this game, because genuinely, the USA just didn't have an answer to this problem. The likes of Gakpo and Memphis kind of blocking this pass to the fullbacks, it stopped that 2 versus 1 situation out here, and then everywhere else, they could go man for man. Now, USA did try and counter that a little bit, with Ferreira up top, dropping a little bit deeper into the midfield. However, even that was kind of nullified. There were occasions when it worked, and we would see him get the ball kind of in feet here from the centre-back and then play the ball wide. That was one way that they could get forward. But in general, because of the fact that the Netherlands were playing a back three, but also because the wing-backs were coming deeper, it meant that the Netherlands could afford for one of their centre-backs to step into the midfield, follow Ferreira into these areas, and again, it just nullified that threat. So where USA had tried to make the overload with the extra player here making it a 4 versus 3, the Netherlands were able to counter it, move a centre-back more aggressive onto him, and again, it completely stifled what they were trying to do. So again, it's just really good from Van Gaal. And unfortunately for the USA, I think they got taught a bit of a tactical lesson. They basically just didn't have the answers to the questions that the Netherlands were asking of them, and it weren't great. There were a couple of ways that they did still get in though. One of the ways that the team from the States were still able to kind of make a bit of progress was with some interesting positioning of their fullbacks, with particularly Dest on this right hand side being willing to move into a more inverted position. And if Memphis wasn't correct with his shadow pressing in this area, it did mean that he could be bypassed, get the ball into Dest, and then the USA could have some fun, kind of get the ball moving forward, because we know from here they have a lot of energy in midfield. They have players who are willing to make runs off the ball in the front line. And they did get into a couple of positive situations. But again, unfortunately, there was just no quality on the ball. The midfielders, when they were getting it in these areas, let's say Dest broke the press here, De Jong goes to press him, it's worked into space here. When USA did get into good situations, they just had genuinely no quality on the ball, and unfortunately it was one of those days where they seemed to have about 6 players who weren't on it, and at this level of football, that isn't going to work. You're not going to win against a quality team like the Netherlands if half your team aren't at their best. You have to be on it, and quite simply they weren't. Even Pulisic on the left wing, I thought he showed moments, but in general the quality just wasn't there. The problem for the USA from this point of view was that they were pushing their fullbacks forward. The fullbacks were high, there were midfielders committing to these attacking moves, but then when you show no quality on the ball and constantly overturn possession in the middle of the park, you're asking to be counter-attacked. And that is what we saw particularly in the first half. That is how the game was unfolding. The USA would try and push players forward, try and make something happen. They would lose the ball with a sloppy touch or a sloppy pass or miscontrol, anything like that. It would allow the Netherlands to get the ball, and then they were just very direct with the way that they played, with Gakpo and Memphis as a front two, isolating the 2 US defenders. And it doesn't matter how good you are as a centre-back, you do not want you and your centre-back partner to be 1 versus 1 against a striker. That is, no matter how good you are, instantly the anxiety is setting in as a defender. You do not want that situation, especially when you've got Gakpo, who is in the form of his life at the moment, one of the most informed players in all of Europe, possibly even in the whole world, and then Memphis up front, who we know has that quality and always seemed to deliver for the Netherlands. And it just left the USA far too exposed to these counter-attacks. And again, I think it was that naivety, pushing players forward but then not showing quality on the ball, allowing the Netherlands to nick in and then counter-attack. But I thought also that the Netherlands were good in sustained possession as well. So as we've seen throughout the tournament, when the USA don't have the ball, they want to put a high press. They want to engage nice and high up the pitch. And unfortunately for them, they were playing against a team that is probably the best equipped team in the world to deal with that. And this is the reason why before the tournament I was saying I think Netherlands can go all the way. And I still think that is the case. Because in terms of press resistance, there probably isn't a more press resistance team in the world. The likes of Yuri and Timber, Virgil van Dijk and Nathan Ake are all absolutely quality on the ball. And then Frankie de Jong is as well. Combine that with the fact that systematically the Netherlands had a good system to expose the USA. Out of possession, USA looked a mess all day long. Like I said, we know their plan this tournament has been intensity off the ball. They just didn't really get close. And the problem particularly was in these wide areas. The fact that USA were pressing with quite a narrow front three, but kind of losing their 1v1 battles, it then leaves you exposed elsewhere. And what we saw was both Dumfries and Daley Blind pushing really high up the pitch. And it just allowed them to constantly get at this USA backline. What the Netherlands were able to do was kind of draw them in. Nathan Ake, take that extra touch on the ball, it just draws the player in. Goes into Frankie de Jong, who's happy to take a couple of touches on the ball. It's just constantly drawing the USA team onto you, drawing them into thinking they can get the ball. But actually, they're playing it perfectly into your hands. De Jong pops it around the corner to someone like Daley Blind. We then constantly saw one of the strikers dropping in towards feet. And the problem all day long for USA was the fact that they were squeezing over one side of the pitch trying to press out this side, but then if the Netherlands done it well and were able to move the ball, then Dumfries always had room down the right hand side. Now, I don't think Dumfries is a great player. I think technically he has a lot of flaws, no offence to him. But when you use him in this system as a wing-back, where his main objective and his main job is to be a runner off the ball, he is absolutely perfect for it. Because, I mean, look at him, he's an absolute unit. And when he is the extra man, he is just so incredibly athletic. Making these runs down the side of the pitch, the USA were never going to be able to deal with that. They had the wrong system. They either had to get the press right or not press. They were kind of doing this in-between thing, where they're half getting there on the press, but the Netherlands have the quality to play around them, and then get this overload. And this is where, of course, we saw a couple of the goals coming from. Dumfries getting into this area, and then cutting balls back into the box, where the quality of the finishing was absolutely brilliant. Another day, the Netherlands may not have scored 3 goals, because the chances they actually created weren't high-quality chances, but the finishing was absolutely brilliant, and it just gave Turner in goal absolutely no chance. Just on this quickly, if we isolate the right-hand side of the screen here, the box defending from USA was up there with the worst defending you will see at the rest of this tournament. Now, they were not helped by the fact that the Netherlands were able to create a front 5, just ignore the rest of the pitch to the left-hand side, able to create this front 5 against the back 4, which Of course, having that sort of overload in your penalty area is a massive problem. But the way that Dest and Robinson individually defended the second and third goals, again, simply not good enough. At this level, you can't do it. You've got, on one of the goals, the fullback is coming in and trying to mark the centre-back's man, which just leaves the wing-back, I should say, completely free at the back post. We saw the same for one of the other goals as well, and unfortunately for the USA team, as good as they have been at this tournament, you can't defend this badly. It was really, really bad. And at this level, it cost them because Netherlands have really good footballers, and like I said, tactically they were well set up to take advantage of those US problems, and for that reason, overall, Netherlands absolutely deserved this win. I thought they were really, really good, and like I was saying before the tournament, I think they have the chance to go all the way. I think they're very, very impressive. I think they've got a great manager. I think they've got a squad full of technical quality. Do I think they're going to absolutely blow any team away at this tournament? Probably not. Are they going to really wow us and impress us? Probably not. But I think they have a very good defence, and I think on the ball they just have a technical quality which is right up there. And I've got a good tactical manager. Like I said, for all of those reasons, I think that this Netherlands team can go all the way, and I cannot wait for their next game, which hopefully I will be covering on the channel as long as it is good, as long as it is a good tactical battle. But in terms of today, that's all I have to say. Netherlands were thoroughly deserving of their win. Tactically, they were brilliant. They executed the game plan almost perfectly. Louis van Gaal will be very impressed with his team, as was I. That's all I've got to say. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.